Good evening. Welcome to the Arlington Public Schools Board meeting. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I want to say thank you to all that are in attendance in person or on Zoom. Thank you for being with us tonight. The first thing on our agenda is our land acknowledgement. Have Dr. Sweden.
Yes.
I know something's up. Thank you.
We honor the first peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their ancestors have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors who believe that everything has a spirit and that they are caretakers of these lands and waters.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we'll have our roll call attendance. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Kingman, President Levesque,
Here.
Director Knapp,
Here.
Student Advisor Levon,
Here.
Student Advisor Nichols,
Here.
Superintendent Sweetie.
Here. Thank you. Next up is our approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda, or can we get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve agenda as presented.
I'll second. It's been moved by Director Diamond and seconded by Director Knapp to approve the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. The agenda is approved as presented. This brings us to our presentation portion of our meeting. And the first presentation is our student presentation from Post Middle School Arts and Elective. And we would like to welcome up Leslie Olson, the principal at Post Middle School, and students that she has brought with, and she can introduce them.
Good evening, directors. I'm Principal Leslie Olson at Post Middle School. And I will share wrangling middle school students in the spring to come to an evening the board meeting. Is a little bit of a challenge. There's so many sports and activities and things going on with the daylight. But I'm so thankful today. I have Rachel and Chloe with me. Nicholas was supposed to be with us and he is sick. So we're hoping he gets well soon, 100%. We were kind of thinking through the past few years, what we've highlighted for you. And we wanted to kind of circle back and share kind of some of the importance of electives in the arts with you tonight. So that's what we'll be sharing. So I just want to highlight that electives are a bit dynamic at Post. We really try to take into account student interests, but we cover the arts, so band, choir, and music class. We've got ASB, which is our leadership, yearbook. We have a foods class that circulates through, which is some traditional cooking and spin on, we've done some farm to table exploration that we're going to continue to grow. We've got our tech edge and pre-engineering, which is our CTE that leads to the pathways at the high school. We've got an additional rec PE for those kids that need that opportunity. And we do computers and coding in a few different arenas. And so we've also done an applied environmental science that was new for us. And we relaunched them in our 6th grade rotation for a quarter long. So we're really trying to be dynamic and give students experiences tonight. And oh, sorry, next slide. So these are a few highlights of, we've got our band classes. And we do a variety of bands. These are our arts and foods. The teacher does both. And so we've got some groups that are doing projects in different places. This is our pre-engineering and shop classes, and they do everything from making our planters when you walk around to custom projects and fabrication, really giving them a taste of entry and what they could do at the high school, so. Computers and coding, always a big one with what's coming up in digital design and things, so. And this is our ASB group, hosts our dances, does a lot of school culture work for us, great group. Next slide. And tonight I'm gonna kick us off with our students sharing the importance of electives. So Nicholas, who's not here, was representing 8th grade band and jazz band. So we're gonna kind of run through his slides and then I'm gonna hand it off to Rachel. And the girls will help me. So I know that Nicholas wanted to share the community that band creates and that the things he's looking forward to that he's built posts that will then extend our Arlington High School band and the importance that is. So next slide. So here we go. Chloe, you want to help me out with anything you talk about?
Band as a community is something that we can all do together, and we know that we have some really good friends that are able to talk to, hang out with, and kind of just be ourselves around and enjoy a hobby together.
Next slide. It's a place for jokes. I think this is fun in band. They make it a place where kids want to be. They definitely form really strong relationships with each other with the amount of time and the cohesive groups they formed. And we know when kids are involved, engaged, and have strong relationships, they're more successful at school. A place of creativity. They really get to explore creative pieces and try on new things. And music is just such a great pathway to develop and use those parts of the brain in different ways. So they have just, again, a ton of fun. So many activities, such a fun group. A ton of fun. He also would like to invite you all to the band concert. I did get a text message to tell you this. The last band concert is on June 4th. Choir concerts on June 10th at the Performing Arts Center. So formal invite if anyone would like to attend. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Rachel. Right,
Hello, I am Rachel Breitenstein. This is my first year doing choir. I love the people, the environment in the classroom, and amazing teacher, Mr. Alderness. I have learned so much and gained so many friends. This is a class where we all have a similar interest and we work as a team. I found a genuine love for singing, and I now understand why it's considered an art. Singing isn't just about letting random sounds come out of your mouth. It's a controlled masterpiece that decorates time. How does music benefit our schools? Music has many benefits besides just sounding pretty. For example, music helps develop language and reasoning, improves memorization, emotional development, discipline, accomplishment in society, intellectual curiosity, and overall better SAT scores. A study done by Neurological Research and Music Education says that students who are exposed to music-based lessons scored a full 100% higher on fractions tests than those who learned in the conventional manner. Another study by Delta Kappa showed that out of 7,500 university students, music majors scored the highest reading scores among all majors, including English, biology, chemistry, and math. But as we all know, school isn't just about grades and test scores. A well-rounded education should include emotional aspects as well. Dr. Frederick Timms reported that during moments of musical euphoria, blood travels through the brain to areas where other stimuli can produce feelings of contentment and joy, and travels away from brain cells associated with depression and fear. A school district can always benefit from more joy and less fear. Music should always have a place in our schools because it is extremely beneficial, and the numbers are a testimony to that.
And now I'd like to introduce Chloe.
My name is Chloe Draper, and today I'm going to be talking about why I love band.
You just got a nod at her. She'll tell you on the next slide.
Being a band is a fun and creative elective choice. Choosing band, you get the opportunity to learn something new, and you get to make new friends, and you get to go on fun field trips. You get to play for others and introduce to others what you get to learn and do. When we're in band, we have lots of fun and laughs together as a class, and we really get to have the chance in school. It's just to like enjoy ourselves for one period and just have like a brief period kind of, but like we're learning at the same time. While you're in band, you get good communication and listening skills. When you're in band, you learn communication and listening skills. You have to learn how to read music, follow directions in the conductor, and we also have to communicate with others when directed to do so. We also get to do multiple after-school concerts throughout the year to show our parents and friends what we get to learn.
I will share that we've had standing room only at multiple concerts back this year for our post-music programs. And that was our final slide. Do you want to touch? You had one with Mr. Otterness, but it didn't get submitted in time. Share anything you'd like about Mr. Otterness.
Mr. Honors, he's just like a really fun teacher. He brings us all like so many laughs throughout the day. Like, I mean, he'll just randomly say stuff, make us laugh when we're all down, and he just brings so much joy throughout our day. And overall, such an amazing band teacher and choir teacher. Yeah. So, you have questions for us?
I was, oh, go ahead, Mary. Oh, you go ahead. You probably have the same question. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for all the data that was shared and the research that was done to share all of this with us. And I love the quote that the district can benefit from more joy and less fear. That I wrote that down. That's going somewhere. But I was wondering, the arts and electives, are they open to all grades, or is it just 7, 8?
So due to staffing, no, sixth grade does an elective rotation. So either you choose band, which is paired with PE and it's on an AB schedule. Or you choose an elective rotation as a sixth grader and you get 4 different electives in a quarter. And it kind of has to fill our master schedule and staffing of what we have, but you get 4 and you change about every 36 days. Which is cool because you get to experience 4 different things. As there's more choices, you go up into 7th and 8th grade and we move into, we've got some quarter electives as 7th graders, and 8th graders went as semesters where you're diving a little bit deeper, gaining more contact. But our band and choirs are a full year. So that does kind of take a spot of other things, but we kind of have a smattering in there for all grades get electives.
Thank you. I was gonna ask, what instrument do you play in the band?
Oh, I play clarinet, and this is my second year.
And then do you want to keep playing in band in the high school?
I
Because there's a
mean-
band director right behind you.
We went to the high school in like February, I think, and got to go play for the high schoolers. But I definitely plan on it. It's really fun, and I really like to get to learn something new and keep learning. And
Good answer, thank you. Any more questions for amazing middle schoolers? All right, thank you very much for presenting and being brave. The next item on our agenda is a Teacher and Educator Appreciation Week. And we have Dr. Sweeting and Eric DeYoung. Is he here? Is he on Zoom?
No, he's here.
There he is.
So first, so Eric, you can come up, but I'll start. I wanted to invite any teacher, certificated educator in the room. I see a few, Josh, and Amy, and Megan, and so any certificated staff, Dawn, yeah, please. Megan. Come on, go.
Sorry, as I was saying, I have my glasses on, so I don't.
And I know that online, yeah, you can stand just right there. And online, Jason Klein is online, so he's gonna say a few words in a few moments, but I'm gonna just say a few, and then I'll have Jason speak. So hang on, Jason, we'll come to you next. So National Teacher Day or Appreciation Day or Week was really last week on May 7th for this year. And that whole week, last week, was in honor of our certificated and teachers and all educators that are certificated. Now, what I found out is that this idea of this special week to honor our educators, our teachers, is what it began 70 years ago. And it was started by the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, 70 years ago. And last week, just it's just a small little token cabinet, we sent out some sweet treats to each of the certificated staff members to just say thanks. It was those little famous Amos cookies.
That was good.
And that's good, that's good. And truly, And having been a teacher for 17 years, I know that it takes all of you to do what you do inside and giving up your mind and your heart and all that. So you're simply amazing to me, and anyone on staff, I mean, on Zoom. I see Jason there, so I'll let you talk in a moment, Jason, but we appreciate you greatly. And I know our families and our students appreciate you as well. And at the end of this, we're going to have a presentation that honors our certificated staff. But I said, you are dedicated, passionate, and committed to engaging all students in high levels of learning at the same time of nurturing their well-being. And that takes a lot. And I thank you for taking on that calling. So thank you. Jason, do you have some words?
Sure. Thank you for the kind words, Dr. Sweeting. And thank you for those representatives who probably didn't know they'd be asked to stand up there and represent all of us. How you guys won? I just made it home from a late Mother's Day. I had to go visit. I went and visit my mom today. They were traveling yesterday. So I was able to get back here in time and join the Zoom. So, but no, we thank you, and we enjoy what we do, and it's great to work in this community and for this district. So thanks a lot.
Jason, do you have some words? Eric DeYoung.
No, well, you said it very well. Obviously, we have over 300 teachers in this district, and we have representation here and counselors. They're people that are certificated employees that we recognize. I know, the cookies were awesome, but I know, because I was around some staff rooms and saw the different things that were going on in the schools, that was, a little more,
Robust.
let's say robust than what we did. But, so I know that you were treated well last week. So thank you for all your service and everything you do for our students.
Thank you. And we've got this presentation that Debbie Montgomery will share with us then. thank you again so much. Those were just a few pictures that we've collected over this year when we did school visits. So just thank you, everybody, for their commitment to our students and our families and each other. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
will
Many kind of faces.
Yes, Director Diamond says he loves the smiling faces. See, all of our kids are smiling.
It was neat to see them all in action too. There was a lot of movement, a lot of bending and squatting and stooping and helping. Our teachers are amazing. Thank you. Next up on our agenda is our approval of minutes. We've got one set of minutes from our study session and regular meeting on April 22nd. Do we have a motion to approve the study session and regular meeting minutes from April 22nd as presented?
Make a motion to approve the study session and regular meeting minutes from April 22nd.
I second.
It's been moved by Director Knapp and seconded by Director Diamond to approve the April 22nd study session and regular meeting minutes as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. Thank you. The minutes are approved. That brings us to our public comment portion of the meeting. And we do have 3 people that have signed up to speak. If there's anyone that would like to speak and has not signed up yet, they can fill out a form and give it to our secretary. I'm just going to read a little script for our public comments before we get started. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public in its meetings. The board appreciates feedback in order to make the best decisions possible to benefit students. In order to permit fair and orderly expression of public comment, the board will provide a period of time at the beginning of each regular meeting during which visitors may address the board on any topic within the scope of the board's responsibility. Anyone addressing the board tonight, whether it be in person or virtually, has completed a public comment form and read and agreed to the district's instructions for public comment prior to this meeting being called to order. When the board president calls your name, please step up to the podium and refrain from comments that are an invasion of privacy, violate school district policy related to harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, are disruptive, irrelevant, libelous, slanderous, or profane. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. The board does not respond to questions during the business meeting in order to comply with the state of Washington's Open Public Meetings Act. The board's silence does not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. Depending on the nature of your topic or questions, the superintendent may ask staff to contact you to answer questions or provide information. The board president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement if it is uncivil or exceeds the allowed time. Each speaker will be given 1 opportunity to speak. So after that, we will go ahead and have Alex Pincus, please approach the podium. Welcome.
Thank you. Apologize in advance for the monotone, but I have to read this or else I'll break the 3-minute rule because I will ramble. Good evening, I'm Alex Pincus. I'm a parent of a 4th and 5th grader at Eagle Creek Elementary. I'm here tonight to ask you to revisit your decision to adopt a family life, sexual health, or FLASH curriculum written by the Seattle and King County Public Health Department. By the time school ends, you'll have 2 years of information on the implementation of this curriculum. Specifically, I'm asking you to add an action item to your agenda or your meetings to review how it has gone so far. Ask the principals, teachers, and nurses how the classes are going. Are there more or less irate parents? Are students more engaged or less? Do administrators and educators have to spend more or less time fine-tuning the material to make it acceptable to their audiences? Historically, at Eagle Creek, I'm told, the students opting out of the health lessons were in the single digits. Last year, there were 55 opt-outs after the implementation of the Flash curriculum. Flash lessons are taught to combine classes of boys and girls. This seems to be a giant point of contention for parents at Eagle Creek. I cannot fathom the goal of that policy, but the educators at Eagle Creek report that last year, the children were noticeably more quiet, more reluctant to participate, and reluctant to engage. I can't imagine that this is what the creators of the lessons were going for. Excuse me. My objections with specific parts of the curriculum cannot be addressed in 3 minutes, but they do exist, and I'm always up for discussing this further at a later date if interested. In the wake of the bond defeat for post-middle school, the conventional wisdom in the district seems to be that no voters are purely voting against raising their own property taxes. Perhaps. I would suggest that decisions like adopting the Flash curriculum for our kids sours many voters on the idea that giving any additional money to the schools, as they don't want their money funding these types of things. In closing, I'd like to see the board revisit their decision to adopt the Flash curriculum and find out what the results are after 2 years of implementation. Now, I can't ask you questions, but if I have time left, 20 seconds, if anybody wants to ask me a question, I'm right here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, Alex, and sharing your concerns. Next up, we have Amy Williams. Will you please come forward?
Good evening, board members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Tonight I come to you both as a middle school teacher and as a parent of 2 middle school age students. I don't know about you guys, but at middle school age, it's not a time in my life that I would like to redo. I don't have access to cell phones or emails or video games that students do now, and that has definitely impacted them and their development. During this time in a person's life, their hormones are starting to come to the surface, bodies are changing, brain chemicals are changing, and peer pressure is at its peak. The CDC reports that 28% of middle school students report cyberbullying. This is higher than high school, 16%, and primary schools at 9%. Technology is a tool for students to bully behind a screen. When this happens, who do they talk to? Who's able to help out? We hope a parent or a teacher who has made a special connection with a student is able to help. But if that person is not there, for some students, the counselor is the one person they can make a connection with and that will last their entire time in middle school. I understand that there are questions about the amount of counselors needed at the middle school level for the next school year. This year, our counseling was decreased to 1.5 counselors in our building. This has made a huge impact on our students who are in need and in crisis during the day. This impact is large enough in which other staff members are stepping in to help out without proper training, such as our counselors have. Post-middle school counselors shared with our staff a survey that all students at post-middle school completed in their ELA classes, showing that 60 students, that's about 10% of our school's population, have had thoughts of suicide, have self-harmed, or have been physically harmed themselves. That is 60 students in which a counselor is trying to help and support when they come to school in crisis. This doesn't mention the students who come to school experimenting with drugs or alcohol. However, I do encourage you to look at the results of the Healthy Youth Survey and what students are reporting there and what they're coming to school with. How does learning happen when these things are on one's mind? For a number of students, school is a safe place with people who care about them and want to help. 60 students is a large number of students for one person to support at the amount of time and intensity and intention that someone in crisis needs. This doesn't mention the other 540 students or more who may be having friend issues, trouble, social conflict, and don't qualify for special education services, but could use some support and friendship making, such as a group run by a counselor. Tonight, I would like to encourage you to think about middle school experiences and how it would have been different if there was not an adult there to support you. There's one more topic that I'd like for you to ponder tonight, and it has to do with our special education services and students who need more support in social learning. Currently, our district is transitioning from a specific support for students who qualify as a person with autism to a person who qualifies and requires social emotional learning, and these are different. And my time is up. But if you have any other thing, I'm happy to discuss with you here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight and sharing your concerns. And our third and final public comment is Megan O'Brien. Come on down.
Thank you for having me. Have I started?
She'll push the timer in a second.
Hi, I'm here to talk about our school counseling funding as well. My name is Megan O'Brien and I come to you as a teacher as well as a parent. I have a daughter at the high school and she used the services of, post-middle school and counseling. Over this year, our middle school counselor positions changed from 2 full-time positions to 1.5 positions. Our counselor split time between Post and Haller, or 1 counselor split time between Post and Haller. With our budgetary situation, it is proposed to drop the counselor position down to 1 full-time counselor per school. I have to share that for a district that states they do not do what is in the best interest of students, I feel decreasing counselor FTE at the middle school level does the opposite of this. Counselors support students in many areas. Some of these areas include, but are not limited to, developmental needs, one-on-one settings, small group or large class lessons, academic planning, once again, one-on-one organizational strategies, target specific needs for students, F-lists, scheduling, behavior modification, where they work with conflict resolution, improvement in social skills, career planning. Oftentimes they're going into the classroom or working one-on-one. Social and emotional development. Our counselors not only support our students, but they also support families as well as teachers. Oftentimes I reach out to the counselors to help me with certain students who are struggling in one way or another. Their support is vital to the social and emotional well-being of our students. 1 counselor for over 600 students is not doing what is best for students. Please support our students and ensure they have adequate support by funding at least 2 middle school counselors. As you heard Amy talk about the problems that we have in middle school and the data that is there, our counselor has done extensive data mining with students to find out detailed information, and our students are in need, and 1 counselor is not going to be enough. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, for taking the time to be here tonight and share your concerns with the board. Is there anyone else that has not yet spoken to the board and would like to take advantage of the public comment portion of the meeting? Hearing no one else, we'll move on to the next segment of our agenda. That is our consent agenda. That includes a lot of things, including our personnel report, our payroll report, warrants, an overnight trip for the boys and girls track to state championship, overnight field trip to for ROTC cadet leadership camp, the overnight trip for the AHS cheerleading summer camp, an overnight trip for AHS boys and girls golf to state, an overnight trip for AHS ASB to leadership camp, an overnight trip for the AHS boys soccer to state, and a resolution 2405 delegating authorities to the WIAA for 2025. Northwest ESD 189 Snohomish County Detention Center Education Program Interlocal Cooperative Agreement, the University of Denver MCE Affiliation Agreement, a Western Governors University Leavitt School of Health Affiliation Agreement, and an emergency school closure waiver request. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the agenda? Or do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. It's been moved by Director Diamond and seconded by Director Knapp to approve the consent agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Yay.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. Thank you. The consent agenda is adopted and go Eagles on state. Woo. Next item on our agenda is our new business. First thing up is our report of donations approved by the superintendent for April 2024.
So during April, there were 5 donations. Three of them were Pioneer, from the Pioneer PTSA. The first one is for $2,478.92, and it was for purchasing 6 iPads and 6 3-year Apple Care plans. Pretty generous there. And then the next one from the Pioneer PTSA was for $1,378.44 for projectors that they would use in the meeting rooms for meetings and for events. And the final one from Pioneer PTSA is $1,807.35 for vinyl wrapped bulletin boards. Instead of a wrapped car, we have bulletin boards that are wrapped. And then the next two are for Arlington High School boys basketball program. It was donations from the 3-on-3. And the first one's for $1,500, and it was for miscellaneous equipment or for summer uniforms, whatever is needed at the time. And the last one is for $1,000 and $1,250 for miscellaneous needs and summer as well. So we appreciate all of the donations greatly. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We have a very generous community and we're very, very fortunate. The next item on our new business is our annual health room update. We're very excited to have a presentation. And we would like to welcome Krista Kramer, our district nurse, and Ann, and Dave.
Well, you're their cheerleader, right?
That's right. Thanks for having us here for our annual report. This is Anna, Nurse Anna Valley. She is the longstanding nurse at Kent Prairie Elementary, and she's gonna help with one of the slides. So without further ado, I just wanted to catch you up on our health conditions district-wide. This comes off of what parents have told us that students have in our district. So as you can see, district-wide, 60 cardiac, anaphylactic, diabetic students, seizure, mental health disorders, asthma, cancer. We have a total of 438 students that are as agreed with a care provider that they have life-threatening medical conditions that our nurses monitor daily in the schools. I just wanted to point out that out of all these conditions and over the last few years, they pretty much have stayed the same, all of these. Maybe it was interesting, maybe like up 3 or 4 total, maybe 63 cardiac disorders last year, we're down to 60. It's very much the same. Except for the mental health disorders, which increased by 25%. So, and this is just what families are telling us as they fill out those forms for us. Next slide, please. So health room visits, our nurses work very, very hard, and we no longer have our health room assistants with us after COVID, which we utilized greatly in our health rooms, and they were so much appreciated. But that's just a kind of a little snapshot of how many health room visits we are at this time of year. So right now, or as of a week and a half ago, we were at over 34,000 health room visits district-wide. I pulled the numbers at Pioneer Elementary the other day, and she was over 5,000 health room visits, and struggling to get all the documentation in, but as a whole, our nurses do a really great job of that. Our vision referrals over the last few years, we kind of jumped up again to 220 vision referrals that we sent home to families that didn't pass. Our Lions Club volunteers that came in and did the initial screens, and then our nurses also checked, as well as our hearing referrals, which were at 54 this year. Just also so you get an idea of what we're doing in the health rooms, medication orders. So we have 827 signed prescriptions from providers district-wide that our nurses are responsible for
having available for the students either on a daily basis or twice a day basis or an as needed basis. And then we can never forget our treatment orders, which are even just kind of one step further. So signed by a medical provider could include oxygen, tube feeding, anything that breaks the skin. So your diabetic students, those fall into that category. Next slide, please.
Okay, so my assignment tonight was on immunizations. I apologize, I have a little case of laryngitis. So in 2022, so 2 years ago, we adopted the state module school system where we work through the state of Washington, and it's connected to our school and our population, our students. What that entailed, especially in 2022, was a little bit of a nightmare. That we had to take all these immunization records that we had on file, and we had to enter them into the state database. And that's, as you can see, all the required doses there. That's a lot of doses for just one child. So it was very time consuming. And the ones that take up the most time is anytime we have a student that registers in our school system that's either out of state, out of the country. We've had a lot of immigrants this year, in the last, especially year and a half or so. And also all of our military families, because all those, most of the time, those records are out of state also. So those, we have to get actually healthcare provider records that have been signed off by a licensed healthcare provider in another state or through the military. So sometimes that's very time consuming, trying to get those records and making sure that they are not only entered, but also too, they're ones that are out of the country that are not in English form, because I only speak primarily English and a little bit of Swedish. I need help with our interpreters, and then that sometimes takes a while to have one of our interpreters interpret all those immunizations for us and tell us what is a Tdap or what is a varicella vaccine. So sometimes just one student can take quite a while. So as you can see in 2022, when we first started, we had throughout the district, we have over 5,000 students. We had 72 that were out of compliance. So that we're somewhere, it was just trying to get those. And sometimes that could be a child who's on McKinney-Vento where we can't require them to start school. We have to accept them right away on the spot. Then in 2023, you could see that our numbers dropped significantly down to 22 that we were out of compliance. So that was really huge and significant. Then here comes 2024 and we're back up to 66. But please know that your nurses are working on this pretty much daily as we enter in new students that come in. And right now we're getting this big influx of all of our new kindergarten registrations for the 24-25 school year. Plus we continue to every weekend, at least a new student or two. So that keeps us really busy. So anyways, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Anne's a rock star in her building. She has 2 students out of compliance. That's all. That's pretty amazing. It really is. So she works, every week trying to get them in compliance and get them the resources they need to be able to get the immunizations. This is just some quick health updates of things we're working on, things we're doing in the health world here. Just to let you know, we have Narcan in all of our school buildings district-wide. It's available at the elementary schools. It's in the health cabinets at your secondary schools. We have them in the AED machines. And we received those at no cost. This year, the Still-A-Grommet tribe last year donated those to us. They have a shelf life of about a year and a half, right about there. And now the Department of Health has started a new program to provide those to us as well. So that's great. We're getting very, very close to getting stock epinephrine in all of our buildings at school, and that is quite a process. We had to have a provider signature and agreements with a local healthcare provider that will oversee me, who oversees having stock epinephrine in the district. Epinephrine is for anaphylaxis. And we are waiting on our shipment of epinephrine, which again, it is very expensive to get that. But the program that's providing it to us is at no cost to schools. So we're still waiting on that, but we're getting close, I hope. We've added an additional AED to and I called it the field house. I can't remember what Arlington High School calls it, that
field house building just north of the stadium. It's always open. It's much closer to the softball and the baseball fields, and during the spring sports, the doors are always open. So we thought that we would utilize, we had an extra machine, so we would utilize that. And the only cost that we had, the pads in it were expired, so we bought new pads for there. And that's $380 every 4 years. I don't know if you guys have had the chance to look at the Purple Air, the air sensors in our district that we purchased a few years ago. They are up and running and on our website. Northwest ESD said because Arlington was pioneers of that system and they loved what we were doing, that they wanted to offer us another one, which they said they're working on as well, also at no cost. We're thinking possibly at Weston. They're different elevation, a little bit farther away, and we thought that would be a nice spot for our third air sensor. And then last week, Wednesday was School Nurse Appreciation Day. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our building nurses and health room assistants in all the different buildings, as well as our totally amazing substitute group. And they are truly amazing, and they support us in the buildings when somebody's out or, has a family emergency or is not well, they jump right in. A lot of those names were our health room assistants from during the COVID time, and they've stayed on with our group, and really, they're really, really great. And so we appreciate them so much.
Chris, I wanted to thank you for your leadership. You are amazing and lead the group well. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the nurses and the people that are listed there that have helped us through that time and now continue to help us, either as subs or in other positions. But I agree, you guys are you look at just the scope of how you are supporting our kids' health and well-being is, beyond even words, because we know that if kids don't feel safe, and they don't have their well-being is not taken care of, they're not going to learn. So thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you guys.
Quite an impressive volume of health room visits. All right, next up on our new business portion with our policy 3246, restraint, isolation, other uses of reasonable force annual report. And we'd like to welcome Dave McKellar, our Director of Special Education, with that report.
Good evening, directors. This is policy 3246. We interchanged the words restraint, isolation. You'll see the policy, it also says, and other reasonable force annual report. We typically, when it says other, don't have to worry about that. We don't apply anything else. This was, I believe this is the first year that I'm actually reporting out on this. And most of the instances happen under the banner of the special ed department. Those students served and supported. And we go to the first slide, please. I'm just going to give you an overview of the last 2 years, this year and last year's. So we'll just take a minute to look at this chart. But first, let me just say too that the state has been wrestling with restraint and isolation at the state level. Our legislators have been really wrestling back and forth, and their attempt, or what they didn't accomplish this year, but was on the front burner of their talks, were to eliminate isolation and to greatly reduce restraint. They want to just do away with it. So it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's just when. And so it'll come up again, I'm sure, the next legislative report. This worries some people. It just, in terms of isolations, can be anything from a designated isolated space. It could be an office area in the front office. It could be, quite literally by the law, a teacher sending a student outside the classroom to stand in the hallway. Could be a form of isolation. And then also it could be a room clear. where the student might be so dysregulated that the rest of the students remove themselves. And so that just puts that student in isolation. They're in their classroom, but they're not around typically developing peers or their classmates. And restraints are, the WACs are pretty specific about when to use a restraint, and it's when imminent harm to self or others is about to happen. It's kind of hard to predict imminent, but kids can oftentimes, they can get in cycles, and so teachers get to know them through relationship and know if they've had a good day coming in the door, they can see it on their face, or something happens in terms of how they're being supported in their IEP or goals or something around behavior, social emotional supports and whatnot. So what I did is I took the last 2 years of data and just put them in this format for you to look at. Across the top, of course, building self-explanatory. This is last year. Number of isolation and restraints combined, and that's how they're reported. They actually break out, so you could see total number of students. That means at the building that's listed, the total number of students who had an isolation or restraint or both. They might have had one event, might have been a walking hold, and so they were an escort, so they take them to a timeout space, and they go into the timeout space, and that becomes from a restraint now to an isolation. Number of students with 4 or less for the entire year was 11. So you can see half the students had 4 or less. Another 7 had 5 to 9 isolation or restraints. And then only 4 students had 10 or more isolations and or restraints. And so as you look down, of course, you can see the numbers, and I'll give you a moment just to process that.
I think maybe you were reading, were those the total, I see the totals on the bottom.
That's just the total down from 5 to 9, 10 or more, so that the totals are down at the bottom that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just looking at Heller Middle School.
That's fine.
Yeah,
That's
can we,
Or
yeah,
Can we,
can we discuss?
So
those?
last year we had a student, and it was part of the life skills program. Those 167 isolations and or restraints was only a 5-month span of time. From September to just past December, actually, it was less than that. And what was happening was the student was in such trauma need, therapeutic need. We're schools, it's what I often tell people, we're ABC 1, 2, 3. We're not trauma informed as a system, right? All of our teachers and whatnot. And so this student was actually moved to a day program, a non-public agency. Well, you'll see it's a different one we'll talk about in a second, but MPA is non-public agency. This would be out of state, and this just happens to be a special school. So Northwest School of, well, the acronym is SOIL. They closed. They've been going for quite a number of years. School of Innovative Learning. They had 3 campuses, a Redmond campus, Tukwila, and Olympia, and they became, for practices and things, and their Tukwila and Tacoma sites were brought under the brought to the attention of OSPI, who subsequently did a massive, look into the program, a review. Last year in June, they announced at the beginning of June that their programs were closing down, except for their Tukwila, and now I understand that's now closed as well. So this one student went down last year for the remainder of the school year, and on June 20th was their last day of operation. You'll see on the next slide, when we get there, the student came back to our district, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then at post-middle school, we did have one student, the asterisk, the MPA out of state. This is a student we have placed in Kellogg, Idaho, at a residential facility. 10 students are housed there. In fact, Brenda Booth is there today, or she's going tomorrow morning. We have a new requirement by the state to visit annually, the sites where we send students that are out of state. And so she's going through that. It's a brand new law. I think we're one of the few first districts to get out there and go through. They have a draft document, review document that she'll have to go through with them tomorrow. And then we have to report that back to the state. So that asterisk, the actual incident happened at the facility. And so we recorded that into our system because it's our student. And so that didn't happen at post-middle school, but because it's the boundary school, that's where they're tied to or enrolled, but that's a part of that school. If they were here in the district, that's why it just shows up for that. So total number of isolation restraints, 461 last year, total students, 42 in the whole system. And then you see 21, 4 or less, 20 or 12, 5 to 9, and then 10 or more had 9 students. Okay, you'll be getting, they'll have access to this as well after.
I will attach it out.
Yeah, so you can look at it a little closer. Next slide, please. Okay, same schematic across the top. Tell me if anything jumps out at you right away. And by the way, this is as of May 10th. We're not through the school year yet, so we still have 4.5 weeks, somebody said today. I'm not sure, but anything jump out?
Not really. I'm curious, from the student from Holler that came back from Northwest Soil, where are they placed now?
Okay, let me point out first, isolation restraint totals to the year is what,
Right.
166.
It's less than last year.
300 less right now. So what's happened is knowing that the state has been moving in this direction, we have been really talking among our programs, especially. You'll see Eagle Creek has the most, we have our EBD program there. And Chris Antelak is a teacher who teaches our CPI Crisis Prevention Institute, which is our restraint and isolation training. It's more about dealing with the antecedents before you have to go to that restraint or isolation. So it's intended to be 65–70% about how to recognize, how to treat, how to deal and support. And then the other part is the holds. So at Haller, you see 24 isolation and restraints, and there are 2 students that are represented in those numbers. One of those students is a student we brought back. So at the end of last year, when we knew Soil was closing, we reached out to several agencies, but found one. It's called Brooks Powers Group, and they operate out of Seattle. Their main target, or their main focus of their organization, they've been around for 15 years, is to reintroduce students out of therapeutic environments back into school districts, to help schools plan for that reintroduction so that we could support them. As a result, that student was brought back to a special program, we call it. We don't have a name for it. It's one student. We have the French house right down the street. And we have a teacher, a 0.5 teacher, and 2 registered behavior technicians with that student at all times. Actually, now we're down to 1 registered behavior technician in the program and the teacher. And then the other student was also in a program that was at Soil last year as well, and they came back. They started with us. The other half of that teacher was in Haller itself in their own classroom. And now that student is down at Overlake Specialty School. So that's in Redmond also. So it's a behavior, mental health support that student needs. But we still have the 1 student that's back. Unfortunately, we're about 50% in program, 50% in the hospital. It's weekly, every other week, that the student ends up in the emergency room, and could be out for a couple days, could be a week. It was a couple weeks over Christmas, and so supporting that student's number one, impossible when they're not there. But it's been a challenge even when they've been here. But if you look at just the restraints, it's probably, I think for that student, most of it was isolation in the house, 12 incidences or 12. The other one was, I think it was 12 also. So greatly reduced from 167 in 5 months to 12. And a lot of it just has to do with the level of support, the level of knowledge, the level of expertise that people have, like the registered behavior techs, who have the training behind that, and then a teacher that hasn't been without bruises and bumps and kicks and bites. It's a pretty lively, environment at all times. But then also Brooks Powers Group comes into the house often, brings in supports. In the other student's case, they were also supporting us for the other student who's now at Overlake. But up until the last month, they were providing counseling for the family as well. Overlake Specialty School now does that weekly counseling with the family as well. So there's just more supports in there for them. Our student at the out-of-state school, again, the asterisk there is 4 or less. So there have been the intense level of supports is greater than anything we could ever provide for some of these students. And so, but the incidences aren't for the year, aren't that significant. Most of it has just been isolation. Just they have a room to calm down, quiet, separate from the rest of the group and go into like that. So the trend is working in our favor. Let's see, next slide. Just a little recap from last year. 42 for the whole year. That represented 8% of our student body, our entire student body. You can see 21 of the 42 or 50% were 4 or less. Sometimes it's just one time that it's happened to a student, or 2 times. It might be one isolation, one restraint, or a different order, and that was it for the whole year, right? So it's just a few top, those, 3% or less of our student population that either are really dysregulated or need a lot of support. And then the next slide, as this year, that 8% went down to 5%. Our numbers overall went from 6 to, or 42 to 26. So about a 2% decrease, or 38%, do my own math right there. Represented 5%, as I said, and then 15 of the 26 had 4 or fewer incidences for the year. Any questions about the numbers, anything we said? And by the way, in 2021-22, the 3 years ago, it was like 295 incidences. So we're kind of doing this, and that's what we want to do.
Dave, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So can you explain why you think the legislature is moving in the direction of having, how do we say it, less, I don't know that we're having less of these incidents. It feels like what you're kind of talking about is categorizing, like we're not wanting to isolate and restrain students. And I'll selfishly talk about my experience as a teacher, and defining that might be different than what a legislator is looking at. So I wondered if you could clarify for me why you think that there's a benefit in not, I mean, again, those words are really, they're tough words. Isolate and restraint seems like really harsh words. But like I said, being in the classroom myself, I find the practice somewhat understandable in a gen ed classroom. And I just wondered if you could provide some insight into that a little bit, where the legislature might be on that.
So you're asking me to speculate on what the legislature is thinking.
Well, why we're moving on defining that, I guess.
There hasn't been, I would say, for basic human dignity would be one of the things that anybody would say that we want to preserve for any human, any student, to be isolated. I think some of this language has come out of the National Autism Association, like our whole country. There's a lot of language that's in our WACs now that comes directly from their platforms and things like that. So I guarantee you, one student that had a horrible experience is one too many. And, I think it speaks to the nature of, and then what worries us, and we've had lots of people speak about different things tonight, from social emotional learning to mental health illness increases or supports. And that's the trend that's increasing, I think, in our system right now. Whether it's post-COVID, I don't know. But we're having a lot of instances where students are dysregulated that are coming into our system. And it's frustrating because, again, our traditional training is ABC 1, 2, 3. We're teachers. There's counselors, but even I remember years ago when the legislature was saying, probably 10 years ago, kids need more support with mental health and those kinds of things. And they said, but look, the schools already have it. They have counselors, they have psychologists. But if you ask our psychologists what they do every day, they're administering assessments to kids. They're working strictly on just we don't have enough staffing for them to, and I've had counselors call me up and say, hey, this is what I do in my district. Does Arlington do it differently? Because I'd like to get out of just doing assessments all the time. And I said, no, I don't have the staffing for that. That's all we're at our max. And so I think that human dignity, of course, we want to preserve at all times. We don't want injuries too. We don't want trauma-informed injuries or trauma experiences for kids. And I think kids who have a harder time cognitively understanding what's happening to them to all of a sudden be isolated. So it's along those lines. I think it's out of the goodness intent always, but it creates practical and very concerning responses by people, like I suppose you're thinking for yourself, Sherry, because it's trauma inducing for others to watch a kid in trauma, a student react. And so I think more and more we're just going to see the need for professionals in these
Yeah.
areas. And I think that's going to require, I hate to say it, but it's just going to require more focus and funding from our state in terms of how we're going to pull that off.
I appreciate that, Dave. I think from my perspective as well is as an educator, I would like more training on knowing what I'm looking at. And I also wholeheartedly agree with students in the population who are maybe under that umbrella of autism. Absolutely. I get that. You know, I've worked with the kindergarten crowd for 3 years now, so some of these things come up. So I would argue that teachers as well need, gen ed teachers need to have some foundational training on kind of what you're explaining. That would certainly help. And it sounds like you're also making the continued argument for more counselors from a budget standpoint. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And just to add, when I've talked to our school psychologist also, if they said, if you were going to ask me to provide therapeutic services to a child, I have to go back to school. Because their psychologist degree for their working in schools and education is not the same as a therapeutic psychologist. And so we don't have those people in our system. I mean, they just don't exist right now. And so again, it's not just one title or one group of people that's going to be able to solve this. It's like you say, it's going to be a district-wide effort that's going to have to happen here. I talked to a school district. Every once in a while you get a kid from another place, and one just came from Atlanta, Georgia, about 3 years ago. And we needed some clarification on some documents because they write different IEPs or evals that looked at ours. And I happened to get a director who had a lovely Southern drawl, and it was great talking to her for about 20 minutes. But just all of a sudden the conversation turned to our worlds. And I said, hey, this is coming up. Isolation, restraints, a reduction, removal. What's it like for you? And they said, we haven't done it for 10 years. And I said, what's that like? How did you get there? And it wasn't easy. And then she, at the end, did say, quite honestly, we just do it a little differently, I guess, you know, in terms of it still happens on some level. And so kids eloping, running for the street, you're not going to just let them go and say, I can't do anything about that. But what they did say, the solution was, it was a system-wide change. It was a system-wide training. It was everybody got it, not just people in special education or programs in special education. Everybody got it. And so that's just something to keep in mind as we move forward.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Do our student advisors have any questions about restraint?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. It's very sobering. Next up is a course revision, a cappella choir.
Okay, not sobering.
I would like to welcome Marilee Herman, our principal at Arlington High School.
Yes, and I have a whole list of.
And this is one of our student advisory votes that we're going to be taking also.
Fantastic, I love it. So the first one on the docket is AIRI, formerly called a cappella choir, and I am here to propose a name change to AIRI because it is very confusing for our students when we don't call it a cappella choir. We never call it that. We just want to switch the name over, doesn't change anything else about the class. It just makes it make sense. That's the big proposal there. That's it.
Any questions? I have one question. Can you explain what AIRI is?
Oh, why, yes, I can. So AIRI is an audition choir. So you do have to audition to join, and it is all a cappella. So you've seen Flight perform as well, probably, right? They're kind of our show choir. They've got, you know, that sort of thing. AIRI is our other show choir, but all a cappella. So you get that, and they can tell you even more.
We have a choir concert tomorrow, actually, at 7 that has all 3 of our choirs.
Okay.
So we have Eagle Choir, right, which is your general, anybody joins choir, and we have our 2 audition choirs, so Flight and AIRI. So yes, you should, thank you, very good plug. I like that.
I'm really dancing.
Yes. So. there you go.
Thank you for answering that very important question. Any additional questions? All right, student advisors, would you vote yes to change the title of this course? Nathan?
Absolutely. As a student, I get many questions from other students saying, hey, what is acapella choir? We don't have it, it's called Harry. So, yes, absolutely.
Rishka?
No. I'm joking. I always thought it was called Airy, but I guess it makes sense that it's called acapella choir, I guess. Yes, absolutely. I'm for changing it to Airy because that is who they are. They are Airy. Mhm.
All right, thank you, student advisors, for weighing in. This is an action item. We have a motion to approve a course revision for acapella choir to Airy.
A motion to approve the name change.
Second. It's been moved by Director Diamond and seconded by Director Knapp to approve the course revision for acapella choir. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Yes.
Director Knapp.
Yes. The course revision for acapella choir is approved. Congratulations. And then you're gonna stay up there, right?
Yes,
You're,
yes, I am, because my history ones are up next, right? I'll pour it.
yes.
Okay,
So the next
so-
one is US history.
So I have the same rationale for all four. And to tell you the rationale, if you have individual questions, I'm sure you have to vote them all separately. We can do that, but same rationale for all four. So as you know, college and high school is now free for all students. We have had all four of these classes with an AP advanced placement course designation. We no longer follow the advanced placement structure for our classes. We follow the college and the high school one because the majority of our students get that, well, now free college and the high school credit. The problem with the AP designation, the AP class, is that kids have to sign up to take a test. If you pass the test, you get the credit. If you don't, you don't. Taking the class, getting the required grade provides you with automatic college and the high school credit. Right, so we have made it match Everett Community College, which is the one that we partner with, and we need our names to match that. We need to take off the AP designation. Because as of now, it's a lie. We don't teach advanced placement. We teach college and the high school, right? Both college credit, both rigor, all those different pieces. And we have also watched our AP exam enrollment decrease, right? So like off the top of my head, our English class for AP, we have about 90 enrolled and we have 4 taking the test this year. So, and kids can still choose to take the AP test, whether we have it on our designation or not. That's still an option for kids. So that opportunity will not leave. It's just not being used. And we're seeing that across the board. College and high schools become free in other schools as well. College and high school offers for, what are we looking at? College and the high school provides 15 credits through this class, and there are 5 that you get through AP. So there's the potential for more credits as well for the majority of these, not all, but the majority. And it transfers nice and easy to most universities as well. So, yeah. So again, same reason for all 4. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, so with the name change, since it won't say AP US history or like A.
No, all of, yes, great question, Marisha. So all of the, so A-Push, not gonna be A-Push anymore. It's catchy, but we're gonna have to come up with something different. It's now, it'll have those, yeah, I was thinking Ush, maybe, yes. But, we're gonna have to, come up with some cool new acronyms, but, all the APs will be taken off. Course name titles will change. You'll see as we rotate through the 4.
Right.
This one will be, it'll be college US history, essentially. It'll have those little numbers in front of it, which designates the same course code as colleges would. I mean, it's the same thing when you go sign up for college, you can take in history
Yeah.
146, 147,
Yeah.
right? So, yes.
So just the AP is being taken,
Correct.
but it's still, like, there's still gonna be a difference between college credit class and.
It's still the same college and the high school credit.
Okay.
We just have not been following the AP guidelines for quite a while because we morphed it to match college and the high school once that became more used by and then free for all students.
Mhm.
Because that's what made sense for students.
Yeah.
So,
So they'll still, if they want to take the college credit class, they can still have the opportunity to take like the AP exam or.
you do not need to take the AP exam to get college credit. You get college credit through every
Oh, you
community
get
college
all
just
of
by
it.
taking it.
Oh.
In fact, you get more just by taking it with the college and the high school credit
connected to Everett Community College, then you do take an AP test.
Taking the AP test. Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
So better all around, in my opinion.
I have one silly question.
Oh, I'm ready for anything. Go ahead.
If I was a student that was looking for not an incredibly hard class, not a significant challenge, because maybe I struggled, how would I know to avoid this college and high school class if it has a regular name? How would I
Okay,
know
yeah.
to avoid the
So
hard
it-
challenge?
It doesn't have a regular name.
It has still.
It will
a clue
have
that
those
it'll be
special
hard.
numbers right there, and then right underneath it says college and the high school class, affiliated, you know, so you'd be reading the course catalog. And your advisor would be going, Mary, let me help you pick the right one for you. We
So
got
there will
you."
be a clue. Nobody will be in over their head.
No.
Unless they want to. be.
No, and we also check all of our college and high school class lists. So we do a lot of review of that as well. So across the board, not just history.
Thank you for answering my silly question.
Okay, not silly at all.
All right. Why, we didn't list all of these with student advisory votes, but I wanted our student advisors to have an opportunity to weigh in on this general idea of taking the AP designate off. So Nathan, I was hoping you would weigh in. And Mariska.
Yeah, I mean, as a student, it's frustrating to hear a change. And I know like a catchy A push does sound nice. It also makes sense why we're calling for the change. So if the only way to still receive college credit as we align ours with the with the EVCC is to change the name, then that's what needs to be done because then it's for the best of the students. Yeah, I would vote yeah.
I would vote yes too. I just wish this was around when I did it, but you know. That's just me.
Okay, thank you very much. So we do have 4 of these. So we'll do one at a time. They're all action items. So we'll start with our AP US History course revision. Do we have a motion to approve the course revision for AP US History? A lot of letters.
Make a motion to approve the course revision, AP US History.
And second,
Last
Thank you, Sherry. It's been moved by Director Knapp and seconded by Director Kelly to approve the course revision for AP US History. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. Thank you. And if there's no objection, we could move right into our next item. That's our US government and politics. That's the exact same change.
Make a motion, we approve the course revision for AP Government and Politics.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Knapp and seconded by Director Diamond to approve the course revision for AP Government and Politics. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Yay.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Yay.
All right, and next up is our course revision for AP European History.
This is gonna be the craziest name change for everybody, by the way, because we're going from AP Euro to Western Civ.
So what's the letters that we're gonna say now?
We're gonna be calling it Western Civ, like all the cool colleges. Yep. But it'll be a shift.
Change, it's that one constant. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the course revision for AP European History?
Motion to approve name change.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Diamond and seconded by Director Knapp to approve the course revision for AP European History. And then the last one of this,
Director Diamond,
oh, sorry, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Yes,
Director Knapp.
Aye.
thank you.
You're right.
We love Debbie. What would we do without her? Next up is our AP Human Geography.
Switching to cultural geography.
Do we have a motion to approve the course revision for AP Human Geography?
Make a motion, we approve the course revision for AP Human Geography.
I second.
It's been moved by Director Knapp and seconded by Director Diamond to approve the course revision for AP human geography. Madam Clerk, Director Diamond.
Aye.
Director Kelly.
Aye.
President Levesque. Aye. Director Knapp. Aye. Thank you for presenting all of them so succinctly.
Okay, there's 5 classes we already have. Now let's talk about a new one we're bringing in. And it's not just me. I have the best. guest
Welcome,
ever.
Yes,
Yes,
Aguilar.
yes. John Aguilar is our band instructor at Arlington High School, and we are bringing a new class on board next year. And I'm gonna let him talk to you about percussion ensemble.
Sweet. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is John Aguilar, very proud director of bands at Arlington High School. But before I start, I just want to say thank you for the support you've given our kids. They've been working hard all year. They've been trying new things. And just to see your support, whether that's a text or a shout out on Facebook, Instagram, or telling the kids how well they've been doing, it means a lot to our kids to be seen, to be valued, to be heard. So thank you for that. I know Director Knapp and President Levesque have been in the passenger seat for a lot of that journey. But it's been fun, so thank you. So percussion ensemble, speaking of new things that we've been trying, we started a percussion ensemble this year, first time in 99 years. So the band program has existed for 99 years. First time we ever made a percussion ensemble in school history. We competed in the MPMEA solo and ensemble competition, which is our music educators region, and they won. And as we were going through the process, I said, wouldn't it be cool if we did a percussion ensemble class? And that drive, that vision kind of kept going as we continued to go. Then we went to state for the solo and ensemble competition, which is sponsored by WIAA. So it's like the equivalent of a football team going to state or basketball going to state. And we saw those groups and I said, yeah, we definitely need a class because those guys were good. And in terms of like talking about opportunity gaps and achievement gaps, this is one of those ways to really close that. Because some of these schools are really spectacular and I think we can also get there. We got to tweak the system a little bit. We got to tweak the structures. So let me talk about the structure first, and then I'll talk about the philosophy and the pedagogy behind it. So percussionists from each band class, we have 3, will be taken from their current registered band class, including incoming 8th graders who play percussion, and we'll create 1 percussion class that meets during the day. The limit of the class size would be about 20 to 30, and that's depending on the size of the overall band. I have to consider instrumentation and balance of sound. It's not advantageous to have 30 drummers and 2 flute players, right? I'm sure flute players would get mad at that. So I have to limit the size based on that. 8th graders who play percussion in their 8th grade bands would register for this class instead of a regular band class. But since they've already registered now, I'm going to talk to Mr. Otterness, Mr. Joseph about who played what, and then we'll just work with the counselors to move them in now. Students can choose to do 2 band classes if they want. They can either be in this percussion class and be in the regular class, or they can strictly just be in the percussion class. And then when we get ready for performances, we'll combine maybe 1 or 2 after school rehearsals to combine it all together. Pedagogically, so why would this make sense? A wind player, a flute player, trumpet player, tuba player, they talk about air, intonation, and tone quality. And because it's usage of air, it kind of translates. Percussion, you don't really talk about air, right? You talk about wrist, talk about fulcrum, grip, right? Arm strokes, all that kind of stuff. That does not apply in a regular band. It's kind of hard to manage the 2, right? I can tweak it as much as possible, but it's still not the direct feedback that a percussionist deserves to play at a high level. So if we split the classes, I can simply, as a percussionist myself, I can talk about proper technique of how to play it, while also talking to wind players of how to properly put air through their horn without having to deal with behavior issues in the back, because percussionists are bored. You know, if I'm talking about tuning, they have nothing to do with tuning in the back. So their form of tuning is throwing drumsticks across the room, right? Not saying that happens in my class, but I'm sure, you know, there's a potential for that. And also talking about like, one of my kids asked, why don't we do chorales, right, as warm-ups? Well, they don't write chorales for percussionists. And so my kids want to do something that is really beneficial, but at the sake of sacrificing the instructional time that the percussionists are not getting if we choose to do chorales for the winds. I talked about time efficiency of rehearsal, right? There's less time wasted. Allows me to focus specifically on techniques for percussion. A lot of successful programs, the ones we saw at State, they all have their own percussion classes. And it's quite evident because the kids, from the snare drummers to the mallet players to the triangle players, they were all good. Like every single one of them were all good. And I had kids who came in this year who were like, I just played triangle in middle school. Can I just play triangle here? Nope. You're gonna learn this, you're gonna learn that, because I want to open doors for kids and not just that you're not just doing this, right? There are way more opportunities for that. It also limits after school rehearsals. We had to meet a lot. Mary knows, right? I meet a lot. Those rehearsals went long too, because they meet in 3 different classes. So this allows us to have class time, school time, to get the work done and limit the after-school rehearsals only as needed. And then also, it's kind of an anecdote. When I was in high school, we didn't have a percussion ensemble class. We had one, kind of like what we started this year after school. When I went to the UW to audition for the school music, I didn't make it. The first time I didn't make it. Because no one ever taught me the proper techniques of how to actually drum. We just learned from each other. And what I would hate is for anybody to go through Arlington High School as a percussionist and not make it to their desired university if that's really what they want to study. And so that's kind of my personal touch on that. But yeah, that's it.
One of the things John told me too, modify this a little off, but was that then once we have our percussion action ensemble and kids, then they're gonna be exposed to even more types of band too, because then they'll be playing with our concert band, they'll be playing with our marching band, they'll be playing with, and so now instead of being assigned kind of to a band or practicing after, they'll be able to kind of diversify their talents even more. Right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. But that's my add-on. I'm learning a lot about music. Now I got a future 6th grader that wants to join band, and I was like, okay, cool. Questions, you guys?
John, my kiddos did band with Mr. Grabowski. I haven't met you personally yet. I'll have to make a time to introduce myself, Sherry Kelly. But I'm very excited for this offering, and I love that we had the drum line, I think, when my kids were in high school. Do you remember what group that was? We had somebody, maybe the Seahawks drum line, come up when we got the new field or something for football. Anyway, it was fantastic. And when my kids were in band, they absolutely, I love the percussion myself. So kudos to you for having the insight. And I also like the efficiency of time. I think that's wonderful that we're not necessarily going to have something extra outside the normal course of the day, and allocating that sounds perfect. And I love that this is your background and that you want to take it to that next level. We have a very strong band program, but I would love to see an equally strong percussion segment of our band. So I'm really looking forward to see what you do and get us up there with some good rankings. So thanks for presenting this. I really support it.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Any more questions from any board members or student advisors?
Yeah, how would this class affect percussion numbers inside other bands?
So percussionists, like I said, they can choose to be in a band or just the percussion class. We do have to limit the size, right, based on the numbers. But the rehearsal, are you talking about the numbers in each band, or?
I guess the bigger picture would be, say I was going to a band concert.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to see one of my friends who's in percussion because it's not in that specific band.
Yeah, good. So that's kind of what Ms. Herman was alluding to. So the percussion ensemble will play for each band.
They'll be in all
They'll be
the
the
bands. So
percussion.
you will see your friend in all the bands.
Yeah.
Even better.
So my kid will go to all the bands.
Oh,
It's very, get ready. There's gonna be all the reminder.
That's right.
Yeah, well.
And also to speak on that, Nathan, usually when 8th graders come in, right, their skill sets need developing. And so for the concert band, which is our primary freshman band, they might play something that's easier, right? And then when they play for the wind ensemble, they're playing something that's a little bit harder, that'll push their levels of playing ability. So they're gonna play in all 3 concert bands, symphonic and wind ensemble, but they're playing different instruments so that they can also diversify the learning.
I've been impressed with the band in general, but having this percussion group be the first year and like going to state and like really proving and like igniting that passion in the students. And I feel like that will ripple down into the new students who are coming up as well. So I just feel like providing that space for them would enhance that like sense of identity and then feeling of belonging. So yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Hypothetically, like it would be more efficient, right? Because you were talking about like after school rehearsals, ergo kind of cost savings as well. So, okay, I'm just curious about that.
And we already have all the percussion equipment, so no new costs at this time.
Just a matter of upgrading and.
Yep.
President Levesque and I have already been talking about grants, right? So, but in terms of like curriculum stuff, right, using building funds and then booster funds, because really all we're doing is buying music, sheet music. And if a stick breaks here or there, I think we'll have to repair that as well, but.
Any more questions? Can I just chime in and say that I'm really proud of my little drummer boy and the progress he's made this year under your amazing leadership. Thank you very much. Okay, and this is an action item, so do we have a motion to approve the percussion ensemble course?
Make a motion, we approve the percussion ensemble course.
I second.
It's been moved by Director Knapp and seconded by Director Diamond to approve the percussion ensemble course. Madam Clerk, Director Diamond,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Annette, aye, Director Knapp, aye. Thank you, that is approved. Thank you for coming tonight, we appreciate it. Next on the agenda is our new instructional materials, Character Strong. We'd like to welcome Carrie Henderson-Burke, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning.
Thank you so much. The new curriculum that's been with us for several years. So, this curriculum adoption certainly did not follow our standard adoption process because it started off at Arlington High School as a supplemental program that, when Dwayne Fish was principal, Leslie Olson brought to him and said, I think I'd like to bring this to our kids. And then during COVID, our elementary counselors got together and said, we need to change some things up. We'd had adopted Second Step as our social emotional curriculum, and it's solidly research backed and has stood up against the test of time in terms of the research, but it was incredibly dry and nobody wanted to teach it and the kids didn't love participating in it. So, so when elementary came on board with going through looking at other resources, they really fell in love with Character Strong. And then the middle school said, we're kind of bookended here and we'd like to get in on this action. So that's why Character Strong is not new in terms of its use, but it is time to bring it forward. It is time to make it our official K-12 social emotional curriculum. So I wanted to show you a little bit about what kids see. So this is the elementary version of the curriculum. At the elementary level, it's called Purposeful People. So it is character trait focused. You can see the 9 character traits. And the goals over K-5 are to help kids be kind, be strong, and be well. So under Be Well in particular, we've got emotion regulation, which is, as we all know, a significant part of the journey of childhood, learning what to do with big feelings. It's probably a significant journey for all of us as adults as well. So at the elementary level, it is, of course, there are classroom lessons on character traits, monthly lessons on the character traits, and classroom kinds of contests that are fun, like door decorating contests and things like that. They have quotes from people around the globe, from all different ethnicities, all different backgrounds, all kinds of experiences that build on the traits. And then there is monthly recognition for kids that are noticed for showing those traits. When we get to the middle school level, I want to just show you the 6th grade page because all of the middle school and high school lessons are structured in the same way. So you'll see there's a foundation period where you're building community with your Character Strong lessons and the other kids that are in the group. Then we move into values, emotions, empathy, goals, and habits. And so, and then in the older grades, some leadership comes into play. So every grade level is structured around these core kind of components throughout the year. And each year has a theme. So sixth grade's theme is belonging. How do we build an environment where people belong? Seventh is well-being, and eighth is engagement. Those same core themes repeat in high school. So ninth grade is belonging, 10th grade is well-being, 11th grade is engagement, and 12th grade is leadership. So there's an added component as kids prepare to head out the door. So that's a very high level overview about what the lessons are about and how they go. They increase in sophistication. Depth, of course, as the kids age. And as a sort of a foundation for the materials, they are built off of the CASEL standards. CASEL stands for Collaborative of Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. I have to go through each letter, sorry. And then it is from CASEL that our social emotional learning standards are derived. So this is very much built on the standards that we use here in Washington. Part of the fun is at every level, there were competitions and character dares, things that challenge students and adults alike to get out of their comfort zone and maybe meet new people or try something new or different. Or it's intended to bring joy and community to the entire school as we develop character and grow.
Gary, can you tell me which teachers teach this Character Strong at the middle and high school levels?
All teachers do. So it,
yeah.
Yes. So it's, there's a designated class period at middle schools. So, and kids are grouped and everybody goes through it. And at the high school, advisory on Fridays.
Great, thank you.
Any questions from any board members? In addition to Director Kelly, any student advisors have any opinions about Character Strong? Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, Character Strong. How I really feel.
Yes, honesty is really great.
I think it's great. I always liked the idea of focusing on character first and then second, because that's really all we have after we leave school is who we become as people is the most important thing. And the more we endorse that, the more we teach kids from a young age that being a good person of good values is the most important thing that better off the whole world.
Any thoughts about Character Strong, Rishka?
I couldn't have said it better than Nathan. It's hard for me to speak on it because I'm a Running Start student, so my advisory teacher is my counselor. But for the days that I am there and happen to be in a class for advisory, it's fun, like seeing people engage. Because I know when I did my advisory classes, I was in the gym room and we just sat on the floor and a lot of people were on their phones or like doing other things, and the teacher would be there. She's like, come on guys, let's do this. And we were all just reluctant to do it. But I definitely think I like seeing like the AHS Eagle Fly posts where it's like the Character Strong for the week. It's really nice to see like, oh, that's creative, let me do that. And it's a nice little reminder to be a good person as much as you can. So I enjoy it.
Good to hear. I like the blending of, certainly it's about kids, but that it involves teachers and staff in terms of the character dares, the activities. It's a nice change up from typical curriculum.
So what we're doing is we're voting on updating the curriculum for the whole guy.
It was separate, it was like at different schools.
Right. That's
We're
what
adopting
that was gonna be my next question. So
Sort
it's
of an
kind of scattered
unadopted,
around.
yeah, has stuff on that.
Now it is
Moving
district
from
wide
supplemental
as
to
the
formally
SEF.
adopted,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Is there any, anybody wants to give a motion? Words are hard today. To approve the instructional material Character Strong for health, social, emotional learning.
I motion to approve Character Strong.
I'll second. It's been moved by Director Diamond and seconded by Director Knapp to approve the instructional materials Character Strong for health, social, emotional learning. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond?
Yes.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
President Levesque?
Yes.
Director Hess?
Aye. Thank you. That character strong is approved. Thank you very much. And the last item on our new business portion of our meeting is our draft capital levy proposal to build a new post-middle school. We'd like to welcome Brian Lewis, our Executive Director of Operations. Welcome, Brian.
Evening. Opportunity to speak with the board tonight. Okay, as the agenda item in the title of today, we're going to be discussing a capital levy proposal to build a new post-middle school. This is a list of topics included in the presentation materials attached to the board agenda. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the post-middle school contingency planning. We've talked about that in a board workshop setting in the past. So the other items list, and I'm going to hit some of the other items as well. My goal here is to build a case for why the district should consider a capital levy proposal in lieu of a bond proposal to construct a new post-middle school. I'm going to start with the election results from the 2020 campaign and the 2024 campaign as well, and then update them for the April election results. This table shows the differences between the different approval ratings for the propositions that were included on both the 2020 and the 2024 ballots for Arlington Public Schools. They mirrored one another almost exactly in terms of what was being requested. There were some differences in the dollar amounts, but the Proposition 1 was EPNO, the Educational Programs and Operations Levy, Prop 2, the Capital Levy, and Prop 3, a bond to rebuild post-middle school. All of those measures achieved greater than a 50% approval from the electorate at the time the election was held. Proposition 1 saw a little bit of a decline in terms of support. Proposition 2, an increase in support, and Proposition 3, the bond, an increase in support as well. The statewide results and countywide results were very similar in that many districts who had proposed capital levies or educational programs and operations levies were successful. The majority of districts that proposed a bond were not successful. They didn't reach the 60%. So we were very similar in terms of our colleagues across the state. There was another election in April of this year. We have 4 opportunities to go to voters. One in February, one in April, one in August, and one in November. Every school district has that set of opportunities available to them. This is the April election results. Statewide, there were 10 EPNOs proposed, 7 passed, 5 capital levies proposed, 3 passed, and bonds, there were 3 proposed and none met the 60% supermajority. I use that term very carefully because while a bond may reach popular approval in terms of 50% plus 1, this still has to meet the 60% supermajority requirement to be considered approved. And there's also another condition called validation, where the bonds and not levies have to meet the validation standard, where 40% of voters who have cast ballots in the last general election cast a ballot in the election in which a bond met the 60% threshold. This had happened in Arlington, where bonds were put on the ballot and they passed with the 60% supermajority, but they did not validate. And this was in the time when the community was considering building a new high school, the new Arlington High School. So it does happen. It's not just a textbook example or a requirement that doesn't cause problems for districts in elections. It does happen. So why would we consider a capital levy? We have shown a history in the district regarding the post-middle school bond of meeting the 50% plus 1 election requirement for a levy, the past 5 times, we put the question to voters, put the bond question to voters. We have not met the 60% supermajority requirement for approval. So maybe there's an opportunity here for a different approach to accomplish the goal of replacing post-middle school. And before I get any further, I want to point out attached to the board plate is a draft resolution calling for a capital levy. And the capital levy resolution is, I'm going to condense seven pages of text down into two or three paragraphs here. It contains findings and determinations that it is in the best interest of students and other building inhabitants to build a replacement for post-middle school, to provide a secure and modern learning space in an energy efficient building, and that the cost of a new building could be covered by a capital levy. Most of that we did talk about with the community for the past 5 elections. There seems to be an understanding, an increasing understanding of conditions that are happening in post-middle school, particularly with during the last election. We had a lot more people inside of the building viewing, actually seeing it for themselves, what was happening there. So also on the resolution is a description of the project. I want to be clear that what the capital levy is proposing is a construction of a new post-middle school on the same campus behind the existing post-middle school in the way that we proposed in the past. You can see where that location is. It's in the white shape outlined by black. The existing middle school is in the red dotted lines. This also includes adding some of the site improvements like the bus lane behind the back of the school that would be shared by both all the programs on the campus there for buses. So we can separate buses and cars. We've had really good success, I think, with Kent Prairie in terms of doing that. Here's another opportunity to do that. We'd also add additional parking and a new play field track at the site replacement. There's another view, an aerial view of the proposed school. Returning to the draft resolution for capital levy. There's a call for an election on November 5th of 2024. And the call would be to ask the county auditor to place a question on that ballot, asking voters to approve or reject the capital projects fund levy. And then the final component of the draft resolution is what's called the ballot title. It's a 250-word description of the measure and the tax result, the taxes that result from that over the proposed 6-year levy period. So, what are the pros of considering a capital levy? I've talked about the threshold for approval is lower. The levy period, the period in which taxes would be collected to support the project, is shorter. Generally, bonds are 20 years. They can go up to 30 years, 40 years. What we're proposing is a 6-year levy as opposed to bonds in the past. They've been 20 years that we brought forward to voters. The added benefit to a shorter levy period is that the total tax burden is lower by about 1/3 across that 6-year period versus 20-year bond repayment period. And that's due to the interest that is incurred when you issue a bond to build a structure. Now, you would pay interest on that bond over a 20-year period. There are some drawbacks. The biggest one, or not the biggest one, the primary one, is that to complete the project takes a longer period of time because of the way the resources flow. If a district approves a bond, then they sell the bond funds or the bonds right away, and the funds become available to support construction much more quickly. A capital levy, there's a period of time where the tax collections have to accrue in the capital projects fund. And there has to be a critical mass available of those funds before you can start the different phases of a project like design, permitting, and construction. And I'll show you the timeline of that in just a moment. The other con is that even though the total tax burden is lower, because it's a shorter collection period, the annual collection amount is higher than what a bond would encompass. So it's a trade-off between time and cost. Another thing that we would need to keep in mind if we were to bring this to voters is that if it is approved by voters, it would require a constant engagement with the community to remind them of what the purpose of the tax collection is for. 6 years is a long time. People start paying into that and they don't see any results. They start to wonder, what are you doing with my tax money? So I'd have to be a constant series of engagements with the community to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward to the goal. So I'm going to present a couple of timelines to you. And one is comparing a capital levy with a bond with the same election date of November 2024. I'll start here with a bond. The board adopts a resolution on May 28th. And the resolution deadline is August 6th. It's the same thing for a bond or a capital levy in 2024. The election is the same date. Oops, I should say November 5th. Levy collection would begin on the capital levy in 2025. Bonds would be sold in June of 2025, and levy collection for repayment would also begin in the April tax collection of 2025. Design and permitting would begin right away as soon as bonds are sold. In a bond scenario, in a capital levy scenario, we would need at least 2 years of tax collections before we would have enough funds to begin the design permit or design process. And then moving into the permitting process in 2028. And then construction could begin in 2029 and school would open in 2030. I'm not putting in a month here in terms of when school would open, but once construction begins, it's about a year and a half before you get to the time of opening a building. Because of the nature of the project, the design of the project, the new school would be built behind the old school. And as soon as the new school was done, educational operations would continue in the existing school. As soon as the new school is done, everybody would move over to the new school. So it's not as sensitive, so to speak, as a bond. There's generally a rush to complete by September, 3 years after the bond's issued. So for a bond to compare to a capital levy, that same design and construction period is compressed. It's 3 years versus 6 years. And theoretically, we could open a new school in 2027 if we were successful in November of 2024. A bond proposal. Any questions about the differences on this timeline? Got another one for you in just a moment too.
Brian, I do have a question if you could go, thank you. So looking at the difference of about, 3 years from school opening bond versus capital levy, what assurance do we have that the cost that we're looking at in today's dollars, what that will be at the time of actual construction? So we're seeing, again, a construction for the capital levy would begin in 2029, whereas the bond will be 2026. How do we make up for that allowance of that time difference?
Have to build additional escalation into the cost estimate for a capital levy supported construction versus a bond supported construction. And the cost estimate that we're working from on a capital levy scenario, it does build that additional escalation cost into it. I'll show you that in just a couple of minutes too.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a good question though, because it does point out a risk that's inherent in a capital levy, is that there could be a once in a lifetime event that accelerates the cost of construction that we cannot anticipate. So at that point, if we were to become overcome by events, so to speak, then we would have to adjust the scope of the new construction. So wanted to share again with you this map about bond approvals, what's required from voters across the country. And in 8 states, there is no election at all. The city council or the town council approves a tax rate increase to support repayment on school bonds, school construction bonds. The election for them comes when the council member stands for their next election. In 31 states, it's only 50% plus one. See those in the gray. In one state, California, it's 55%, but that's only to cover educational facilities. Athletic facilities are not part of that. They still have to meet a 60% threshold for athletic facilities or support facilities besides the instructional site. And then there's 10 states that have different varied degrees of approval. Washington's included in that grouping, and we have a 60% plus one or supermajority requirement. Excuse me, not 60% plus one, just supermajority requirement. So why am I telling you this? The state legislature has been considering changes to the threshold for bond approval. They have not taken action yet. I shared a comment with a group last week that I've been working on school finance issues for 23 years. And every one of those years, the state legislature, there's been talk about lowering the threshold for approval. It hasn't happened. So let's just assume that it did happen. What would the timeline on that look like? Because it's not just as simple as the legislature making a change. There's other steps that we have to go through in terms of election to meet, to take advantage of that change in the threshold. So assuming a 2025 approval by the legislature of a reduction in the threshold for bonds, this is what the timeline looks like. Capital levy, it's the same thing, same timeline as the first timeline. The change for bond approval, once the state legislature approves that, and let's just say May of 2025, that's, I think, realistic to assume that they would be finished with their session at that point. Then it becomes a question to voters, because it's a constitutional amendment. It has to be approved by the voters in the state. And that would be in November of 2025. If that were to pass, then the first opportunity that would be available to school districts to put bonds on the ballot that have a lower threshold requirement is February of 2026. And then assuming that the district passes a bond in February of 2026, they sell those bonds in June of 2026, design, permitting, construction, all kick off and complete by September of 2029. So when we compare that to the capital levy timeline that's shared in both scenarios, we're looking at a year difference in terms of opening a new school. So there's another branch of decisions to make. Do we wait until the legislature changes the threshold requirement? Or do we move forward with what we know now? Changing gears. You're going to move away from the timing discussion and talk about our eligibility for school construction assistance program. In the prior elections, we've been eligible for $5 million in state assistance to offset the cost of school construction. It's basically a contribution to match or the community's contribution to building a new school building. Well, that eligibility has changed significantly for two reasons. One is that the state legislature changed the amount per square foot that is funded by the state for construction assistance program. The other one is the state's estimation of our future enrollments in grades K through 8 has increased to the point where we have more unhoused students than we did prior to January of the last of 2024. So what's that result? What the result of that is a significant increase in eligibility for school construction assistance program from $5 million to $25 million. So it is meaningful. So we may have issues with the threshold, the eligibility threshold for approval of bonds. And the state's response to that is to increase the amount available for school construction assistance. It still requires the community to make their contribution. So working with McGranahan, we've updated our project cost, assuming that we have a capital levy on the ballot and that's successful. And we're able to go to bid in December of 2028. And that cost has gone up from $95 million to $106 million. So there's some cost in terms of delaying the project. This is inevitable. It's going to continue. So we take that amount, subtract out the SCAP funds, the state construction assistance funds, resulting in a levy request of $81 million, $81,159,000.
And that's the full meal deal. That's the building and the parking reconfiguration.
Yes. It's the same cost as what we're looking at about the parking lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Brian,
Yes.
can you explain a little bit more? I'm not as familiar with the school construction assistance program. Is that a matching fund that we only get at the very end of the project, or can we, and are we locked into that amount? Well, what if they change their mind in 4 years and we're halfway through?
Once
Can you
we're
explain?
eligible, we're eligible. The only thing that could be a complication in terms of accessing those funds is if the legislature chooses to fund it or not, to provide the resources to make payments against the claims that come in. We've only done that once, and that was like in 1983. So there's a good track record of the state meeting its obligations for the school construction assistance program. The other side of your question about timing, there's options available to us. We can select that we would pay the entire cost of the project and then claim that funding that's eligible, or that we're eligible for after the project is completed, or we can spend our obligation and then start claiming the funds that we're eligible for. So in this situation, we would spend $81 million, and then we would be able to start claiming the state matching funds, because we don't have any resource to fully cover the cost of the project and then begin claiming. So just some comparisons in terms of what the monthly and annual cost would be for a $500,000 valued property, because it's all based on, and the taxes that are due are all based on the value of this property. 6-year capital levy, $81 million. The monthly cost would be $65 a month. Annual cost of $775, but across the 6-year period of the issue, the capital levy issue would be $4,650. I don't have numbers for an $81 million levy. I do have numbers for a $81 million bond. I do have numbers for a 20-year, $95 million bond, which we had put before voters just a few months ago. And the monthly cost on that is $32 a month. Annual is $385, and the lifetime is $7,700. So there's about a $3,000 difference there over the total cost from what we were asking for in the past versus this new suggested proposal. But it's different in terms of the monthly cost. What does that difference look like? The current levy that we've got in place right now, which ends in 2024. The total monthly cost is $87, with the annual cost of $1,045. The new levies that were just approved by voters that take effect in 2025. The monthly cost is $101, and the total is $1,210. If we were to issue a $81 million 6-year capital levy, that adds $65 a month for the capital levy. Excuse me. That makes a total 60. Excuse me, I'm confused here. It's $65 a month for the capital levy plus $775 and or not plus $775 annually. Total monthly cost of $166. That's including current approved levies, and then a total annual cost of $1,992, including the currently approved levies. Pause here for a moment. Questions?
I appreciate you putting this slide in because that was my question was how did it stack up against what was just approved? So
And that,
see that laid out.
yeah, and the 65 a month, for that last one, that goes for 4 years. So it all changes in 4 years, you know, because the EP&O.
Well, this would continue for 6 years. Because we have the capital levy and the EP&O expire in 4 years, so in the midst of the collection of the capital levy proposed, we would have another election of EP&O. Unless something completely changes and the state decides that we don't have to do that anymore. But again, just like a bond threshold, I'm not gonna hold my breath on that.
A good question, Brian.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory. I know you said this before and I don't remember how it goes, but when new growth happens in the area and there's more housing, more taxpayers, how does that affect levy once it's in place? Does it make everybody still have to pay the same amount, or does it lower it because there's more people sharing the burden?
Well, it's all based on property value. So as there are more properties added to the tax roll, the overall burden of the individual goes down. Individual property owner goes down, unless there's something that causes the value of that property to increase more than the value of the other properties around. Like somebody has a piece of raw land, and then they build a house on it. The tax is going to be the taxable value is going to be higher because of the construction of the building on it than it was in the past. So it's, you know, I had to qualify that response. I think everybody's situation is different, but generally speaking, as we add more structures to the tax rolls, the burden of the individual declines. The rate goes down once voters approve an amount to collect, it cannot go up. So there's a difference between like what municipalities can collect, because they're levying a rate, and as value goes up, the rate stays static and the collection amount increases for that piece of property. But for us, our voters approve an amount, not a rate. So we cannot collect more than what's approved. So there is an outlier condition that we're not really clear on right now. And that's our potential to apply for seismic retrofit grant funding. It's also offered by the state. We're working with McGranahan to try to understand where our opportunities lie there, but because the intent of the program, the seismic retrofit program, is to retrofit existing buildings, and some schools are coming to, OSPI and saying, well, look, why would I retrofit this building that's in a flood zone? When I could build a new school building that's not in a flood zone or a tsunami zone. So there may be some opportunities for us to apply for grant funding for seismic retrofit that would offset the cost of construction of the new building. I don't have any definite news on that right now, but it's an opportunity that may be out there. Last slide just shows the different election dates. This, obviously the last election we've got in November would require adoption of a resolution by August 6th. And then the other wrinkle in this is that if the voters were to approve a capital levy, the certification of the election comes 4 days before the district has to certify to the county for a levy collection. So we have to be very, we have to anticipate that if we were to pass, that it's going to get certified as the final count, saying that, this is what the vote totals are. It can't change after the first two counts of election day and 2 weeks or 2 days after, but it's not likely to change significantly by the time you get to certification. Just have to keep that in mind. Okay, that is the extent of my presentation tonight. If you have to answer any questions, I do plan on working with the superintendent to bring a mock draft proposal on May 28th for your consideration.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Is there any questions? That's all right. Next up is our informational items. We'll start with our superintendent's report.
So I just want to state again, it was in the consent agenda, but kudos to Arlington High School boys and girls golf that went to state. Is going to state, and Arlington High School boys and girls track is going to state, and Arlington High School boys soccer going to state. And today we received news that Weston was recertified or reaccredited. So they went through accreditation. You have to do that every so many years. And it's a process and they flying colors. We're good on that. And then this Thursday, we will be honoring several individuals from our district who have made positive contributions to our district. And those individuals will be honored at the May 28th board meeting here.
That's all I have. Wonderful, thank you. Director Kelly, next up is our legislative update and discussion. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us tonight?
I don't really have any legislative updates particularly. I know that Mariska is our OSPI person or WASDA person, and we have meetings once a month, and it's hit or miss right now because I work at noon on Tuesdays when they hold the meetings once a month. So kind of quiet, but just am looking forward to continued representation from our legislators, and I think that's going to be a big key in improving that narrative when the legislature meets in January. It will be their longer session. So like I said, kind of quiet right now, but just will continue to connect with you. And if you have thoughts of what you want to make sure our legislators know, feel free to send me that and we'll kind of compile those things, but nothing really to add tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kelly. We appreciate you keeping us in the loop. Next up is our comments from our board members. I'd like to start with our student advisors. Mariska, would you like to share anything? How many more days left of school?
Like 3 weeks after this Thursday. It's crazy. It's quite the emotional time for me specifically. Like, I'm very excited for what's next, but it's a bittersweet feeling because it's all like closing, like this specific chapter is closing, and I'm sad to see it go, but like I said, I'm very excited for what is in store for me in the future. I don't think I have much to add. I will advertise though. We have our cabaret, May 31st and June 1st.
And Tuesday, tomorrow, we have a choir concert with all three of our choirs at 7 p.m. in the VPAC. Friday, Flight is going down to an Aqua Sox game that we are singing the national anthem at that. I'd also like to advertise for the band. Their Swing Into Spring is this Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. There are swing lessons before the jazz band performs. So if you guys are interested in that, I'll support. Flight will be singing at Swing Into Spring on the Saturday. We won't make it the Friday because of the baseball game, but Saturday. we'll be there.
And you're singing on Thursday at the Lord's.
We are singing, yes, we are singing on Thursday. It's a very busy week. Yeah. busy week. But that's all for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan, do you have anything you'd like to share this evening?
No comments.
All right, thank you. Director Knapp, any thoughts you'd like to share?
That was a very rich and dense board meeting. So I appreciate the students coming and sharing their joy with us. And that's something I appreciate having the student advisors on the board as well, is just sharing with the board members. I think it's so important as we're making these decisions to hear from the voices who will be most highly impacted, and appreciated the public comments and just continuing the conversations. Looking forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Diamond, anything you'd like to share?
Not really. Thank you for the public comments as well. Appreciate it.
I want to just take a minute and share that I went to WASDA area meeting. It was in Friday Harbor. It was on the 27th. Got to take a ferry boat ride and pouring down rain that day, so there's nothing better to do but go to a school board training session. And it was really well done. It was quite interesting, and I was really glad I went. So I learned some things that I thought would be good for a study session sometime about, just how to treat people with respect and dignity. That was really important. We can always do better. We can always treat people nicer and learn more. So I thought that was really great. I want to remind everybody about our next meeting. Oh, Director Kelly, do you have anything else you would like to add?
I'm good. It was just, again, I love the feedback. It was nice having public comment tonight. I think that that's engagement with our community, which we always want to encourage. And I did have a good week last week myself with our Teacher Appreciation Week. Just wanted to add that on Friday, we flipped it, and the certificated staff ended up hosting the classified staff. So we did a big blowout breakfast and we tried to outdo everybody. So that was really fun, showing our appreciation for our classified staff, because truly, yeah, we couldn't do this job without them. So anyway, good week. Thank you.
So thank you for sharing. I want to remind everybody about our next upcoming meeting. And to make a note that they are not on a Monday, but on a Tuesday following Memorial Day. So next meetings will be the board study session on Tuesday, May 28th at 4 p.m. in the Lincoln Room, with the regular board meeting on Tuesday, May 28th at 6 p.m. in the board room. And next, I'm going to read a little script about executive session, because that's next on the agenda. We will now recess this meeting so that the board may convene in an executive session to review the performance of an employee, the superintendent's evaluation discussion. I estimate that the executive session will last approximately 45 minutes, during which time no final action will be taken. Following the executive session, this meeting will be reconvened for the sole purpose of adjournment. My watch says 8:18 right now, so 45 minutes is serious mathing. I think it's 9:03-ish. So this meeting is recessed. And we're going into oh, you sent it to there's some okay.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, good night.
My phone.
Very nice.
Okay, it was very nice.
Oh, well, I was hoping like you
We get to
Yeah.
talk about these as
All right, thank you for coming back from our executive session. The last item on our agenda is our adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved.
Oh. Authentication to the server.
Motion made by
Me,
Director Diamond, second by Director Nat. Madam Clerk.
Director Diamond,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
I said no. Oh, shoot.
Claudia Levesque,
Aye.
Director Nat.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Drive safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Very loud. It is not looking red or green. Is the
Maybe is
owl?
it off?